are you finding you're holding yourself back, maybe sabotaging yourself a bit, and it's really frustrating you? Well, I've been there too. And that's why I wanted to share 3 ways on how you can stop self-sabotaging yourself. And if you stay until the end, I have an extra special point for you then. Now, I was thinking about going back into, and I see this when I talk to lots of people sabotaging themselves, especially when they want to start something like a business, right? They're like, they come up with these surface level objections for like when they're not doing so. I'm not, when I say objection, I'm not just talking about a conversation with me, but I mean like in general, the kind of things I hear people say to one another. Like it comes out of things like, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. And these are just surface level lies people have to themselves, because honestly, if you really want something, you will find a way. You will make it happen. The thing is, we're sabotaging ourselves, we're holding ourselves back. And this is what I discovered with me, because from researching all of this and actually going through my own experience, I found myself holding back in business, like, oh, I just got to learn a little bit more before I put myself out there. Oh, it's there's a lot to learn about YouTube, I better get it right. Or things like, yeah, I just got to get another coaching cert. Oh, that's the worst one. I've got to get another coaching certification to go out there and actually help people, which is actually quite selfish in a way, that you're holding yourself back from going out and coaching someone. Now, obviously, if you've got a real life qualification you do need to have in something, like driving a plane or flying a plane, or like certain like therapies and stuff like that, you do obviously need something, or like even a doctor. Yet many of us just go and do more qualifications just because we're holding ourselves back, and it's sabotaging behavior. And I remember doing this even in like going into sales. It's like, I'm just making lists of things, I'm just these leads are difficult to get hold of and all these kind of things when I was selling for a couple of people. And it's absolute rubbish. I was sabotaging myself, and people sabotage themselves all the time. Now, you have to be honest with yourself and actually know if what you're saying on the surface level is true or not. Often it's a lie. And when it's a case, we're just not resourceful enough. We hold ourselves back. We sabotage ourselves because we're not training ourselves to think good about us, to have that belief in ourselves that we can do it. Because there's a lot of negativity out there, and unless we train ourselves to train our psychology to feel good, then we're going to hold ourselves back. If you were like me and you came through like a whole family full of like working and never been an entrepreneur, of course you're going to hold yourself back and sabotage if you're going into entrepreneurship, because unless you train yourself like I eventually did, because around you, you've been surrounded by information to say that's wrong, that's scary, that's uncertain. I remember a conversation with my dad, and I'll say, God, it's hard in the job market. Like, actually, it just shows how hard it is to hold on to a job. And he said, oh, it's even worse for like business. All right. And that, I remember him just saying that many years ago. And it just puts a worry. Now, this isn't a kind of, should you have a job? Should you have a business? Whatever's best for you. This is just an example of someone else's belief around you that can go into your system unless you train it. And we hold ourselves back and sabotage because of the information that's coming in. And it's not all, and it doesn't mean necessarily it can be toxic people, but doesn't often mean it. It often means it's just people's own beliefs, and they've taken it on board from other people. So that's ultimately going to cause sabotage unless you train what's going around in your head, your psychology, which is the words and pictures in the simplest definition. Unless you train that consistently, and there's no end point to when you're going to stop training this, then you're always going to have a challenge. Now, how is it helping you by not training yourself and then having the self-sabotaging behaviors? And unconsciously, what you'll start doing is going along with the information that's stored in your head, unless you can understand it and train it otherwise. Now, I'm going to go into the points. Just before we go and do that, though, I want to ask you, are you challenged by self-doubt? And maybe it's blocking you going towards what you want. Things like, you can't do that. Who are you? What will people think of you? Some of the things we've just been talking about, some of those sabotaging things. Well, I was doing this too, and that's when I decided to do something about it. That's when I pulled together all my tools and started like understanding more in the personal growth world, more in the self-esteem and confidence space. And that's why I'm putting together the self-esteem and confidence booster challenge, an 8-week challenge for you to get you a clear system towards where you want to go in life with stronger confidence. And there's 3 prizes to be won in this, including a coaching session with me as well. Now, entry to this is going to close on Saturday, Eastern Standard Time at midnight. So don't hold on, because there's a link in the show notes below. So let's go into your 3 points. The first one is become more conscious. These are the 3 points how to move through self-sabotage. The first point, become more conscious to it. Okay. When you start noticing maybe a behavior that's not helping you or moving you away from your goal, and it's really important to write down your goal, start noticing it. Instead of getting frustrated with yourself or pulling yourself away, whether that was maybe you sabotage your finances a little bit, maybe you didn't go out and make those calls with those potential prospects for your business, just start questioning it and getting curious and say, what's the reason I didn't? Now, think rubbish is going to come up on the surface level, like, oh, well, busy things came up, which isn't true, because there's always time for the most important priorities. Now, obviously, if a family emergency or something came up, that's a little bit different, right? I'm just talking about when like maybe the day got away from you or whatever. So again, it's being honest with yourself, like I said, but start asking yourself, being more conscious, being curious rather than frustrated towards some of these behaviors. And then you can start understanding why maybe you're sabotaging. And if perhaps it's just a little bit of fear, maybe you just need more of a conversation with yourself. Maybe you just need to praise yourself, which is actually one of the other points, a little bit more to give yourself some credit. Just get a bit more conscious and curious about some of the self-sabotaging behaviors. And one thing I like to do is note them down on my phone. Like, even when I eat something and it's like made me feel not so good, I'm noting that for the next time, because that's more likely going to keep me away from it. So start writing down maybe some of these things. And actually what you can do at the end of the day, or even like once a week, is just start journaling through some of these things and understanding them. The second one, and I was just touching on this, is start praising and rewarding yourself for good behavior. It sounds so simple, but so many people don't do it, including myself in the past. I've forgotten to do this. But this is rewarding yourself and praise yourself for good behavior. If you do something good, think about it. If you were working for someone, for example, and if you're an entrepreneur, obviously going to be working for yourself, or you will be if you're kind of in the stages of that. Well, if you kept doing great things and really working hard, and your boss gave you no recognition, or your manager gave you no recognition, how would that feel? Eventually, you probably want to leave. You get fed up. You want to find another job. And the same's for you. If you don't give yourself praise, pat yourself on the back and say, well done, you don't give yourself rewards, in places they give bonuses and things like that. Well, start doing the same for you. Give yourself maybe a massage, take yourself out for a date, do something. Because when you start doing more of that, it's going to reward good behavior rather than go towards negative behavior. So start praising and rewarding yourself for the good stuff, because that'll make you do more of it, and you get a dopamine hit, a feel-good chemical in your body because you're praising yourself and it feels good to do so. And then my third one, accountability with someone else. When we say to ourselves we're going to do something, most human beings I've met, pretty much everyone I've worked with, and I'll take this from myself and from researching this, when we're just accountable to ourselves, we're much less likely to do it than if we tell someone else. Now, make sure you pick someone who's good to be accountable. Now, what's really beneficial is actually working with a coach. And obviously I'm a coach myself, and there are options to work with me. And that's why I've kind of put that challenge, because it allows more people to get access to it. But obviously, if you work with a coach or a mentor, they're going to keep you accountable as well. You can just start off though by getting a friend or a trusted person, don't get someone who's unlikely to keep their word, to keep you accountable for the things you want to do, because then you're going to have to report into them and tell them. And we don't let other people down. We don't want to look like we're not doing things. So start using more accountability into your life as well. Now, I've got an extra point for you as well. But before we get onto that, I just want to say thank you for listening today. I appreciate you for being here. And just another reminder that if you're really stuck with that self-doubt and it's blocking you moving forward towards what you really want to do, you'd like to have more confidence and smash through that self-doubt, then the self-esteem and confidence booster challenge is potentially for you. An 8-week challenge. I'm going to give you my best tools in a systemized approach, really simple to understand. The only catch is entry to this does run out midnight on Saturday, Eastern Standard Time. So you can just hit the link in the show notes below to find out more about that. Okay, so what's my special final point for you? So my special final point for you is this. Be accountable on somewhere where other people can see it. Something like social media. Posting what your targets are for the day, if you're comfortable to do that. Maybe you can write them and put it on the place in your home if you've got other people around it. Say what can you be accountable for. This is an extension to the accountability point, because that's really going to make you accountable. You've got to tick things off, because when you can visibly see it, it makes it much more real that you've got to do it, rather than your brain going, oh yeah, I said I might go to the gym for 15, 20 minutes possibly. Well, you're more likely to quit if you get caught in your own head. If you put on paper, okay, 4 times a week, I'm going to go to the gym for 20 minutes minimum, and you put it on paper, or maybe post it on social media, you're much likely to do it. And that self-sabotaging behavior is less likely to come in. So that's what I've got for you today. Once again, a final reminder, because it is going away Saturday, last entry. The challenge starts on Monday, about the self-esteem and confidence booster challenge. After Saturday, midnight Eastern time, you will not be able to join. So don't hang about. You can find out more about that in the show notes below. Okay. And I appreciate you, as I said. So you're improving other people's lives by being the best you. And remember, you are in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.